Ale ale na moku o ka pai ai nai na nalu o kanalo loikahi. Ma ka lihilani na kuala no ka hiku I ka lei kau o nohi ka puo ka nenui a ke ahae. He leo hea hea pukana I ka lani. Vehea ke awa ho hea ho I ka pouli uli. O kuku I ka leo o lono I ka he kili. O la lapa waka waka kauila ka iana I ka uai. Hua I ka ua ho o la honua a hau mea ka aina ala ahia. Aina ke hina o ahine ka pu. O kuka o Kanaka eli. Ka mahina ai o pia hohoi nei hina I. Ta umeke ai a hinai. O ka ho oili no nei leo. Ki ana I ka lei o ka lana kila. O lalo ana I ka ulu o ka lae. O lalo a ka ho oili no ka la kapu. Ka la hiva o na Inoa Mana na kupuna. He aloha e. He aloha la hae. Ano ai ke aloha I a kākou e ka hū ke anaina ka lehu. No keia aina nani, aina ka mahao, o Maui nui a ka malala walu. Aloha. In the language of my mother's ancestors, I not only bring you greetings, but I invoke the essence of my kupuna, the essence of the ancestors of this land, to be here in these few minutes. It is these ancestors that I derive my name, Hinaleimoana Wong-Kalu. As I reflect on how Hinaleimoana came to be, I also think about these past 42 years that it has been the culture of my mother's family that has sustained and supported me. It has allowed me to preside over affairs that concern ancestral burials over the land of Oʻahu. It has enabled me to teach children from kindergarten through 12th grade the history, the chants and the dances of what our people know as our culture. And I think to myself, I hope that the time that I spend with the youth that come to Hālau Lōkahi Public Charter School, I hope that it will serve as a guiding light. For it is the light of our ancestors, the ancestors of this land, that will help to pave the way. For when we know where we come from, we shall know where we go. If you can imagine, though, some of the inner turmoil that I don't always get to share with people, and only people that really know me will truly understand. May 15th, 1972, born into the world was Colin Wong. And this child was born to a Hawaiian mother who was also part Portuguese and English, and born to a Chinese father. This child grew into the person that stands before you today. And what a wonderful journey it's been so far. Ladies and gentlemen, I've connected with my mother's ancestry for all this time, and it took me to reach this point In 2010, after transitioning and going from my family's son to my family's daughter, I, being the last of my father's 4 children, was the first to get married. Can you imagine what that was like, telling my father that? I do have a brother and I have 2 sisters. And as the baby of the family, I said, aha, got married before all of you. But bringing my husband home from Tonga, the Kingdom of Tonga, through Fiji and here to Hawaii, enabled me to have part of my story documented. And this documentation was called the Kumu Hina Film Project. And as a part of the tour of this film, I got a chance to see the land of my father's ancestors. So in preparation for this trip, I gathered up my family genealogy and I gathered photos, and one photo in particular. As you can see, in the top, all the way to what would be your right, second to the last, is my father. In this photo are my grandparents and my great-grandparents and all of the Look family clan that lived in Honolulu. Thanks to my dear friend Dean and Joe, we put our minds together, and Dean said, hey, Hina, I'm going to look for your family's village. Do you have the writing in Chinese? And I'll look for it on Google Maps. What a wonderful thing, technology today. And so I said, okay, well, here's the writing. And so we eventually reached China, got on a taxi, and drove all the way to this little bitty spit of a village. And lo and behold, we started to get out of the car, and I looked around and I said, this is the end of the road. Where are we going? But luckily, I had my folder in my hand, and the taxi driver went ahead of me and started to knock. And the first door that he knocked at, an elderly man came to the door and said, yes, of course he's speaking in Chinese, and I can speak the language of my mother's ancestors. I can't really speak the language of my father's ancestors. But he's speaking in Cantonese, and he says, yes, who are you looking for? So we explain, and he started to say the name, and I rushed over and I said, here's the photo. And he looked and he said, oh, this is the photo. And I'm standing there like, uh-oh, okay, hold on. To shorten this story, we proceeded up to a cousin's house, and there, sitting on the shelf, was the very same photo. We proceeded from that house down to this house, my great-great-grandparents' home. And there, up on the wall, was the very same photo. Ladies and gentlemen, this family that I connected with after 3 generations of not being connected to our heritage in the great land of China, the Middle Kingdom, the Middle Earth. It took Hinaleimoana 42 years before I got a chance to connect with this side of my heritage. Can you imagine the tremendous feeling that this was? For as I mentioned, when my name was Colin, and now my name being Hinaleimoana, my middle name never changed. I kept it as Guaiguang. I denied myself the privilege and the honor to live and be a part of what this wonderful name means. I'm not just going to tell you just yet. I denied myself because just the sound of it was unusual to the students that I went to school with. Although many of them were Asian, they just didn't quite take to it. So they ended up calling me everything from King Kong Wong to all of the other unkind things that could be said to a child. On top of the fact that my fellow students knew that I was different. For you see, in the world of the West, we have the word called transgender. But in Hawaiian, we have the word mahu. And if anyone knows the Hawaiian language, the true definition of mahu is not a source of contention. It is not a source of disdain. It is not a source of negativity. It is simply an adjective to describe the attributes of someone who doesn't necessarily have to look like this, but to describe someone somewhere in the middle between kane and wahine, between male and female. Back to China. Here I am, exactly as you see me today, standing before my family. And I asked one of my cousins, who's pictured here, I said, do you think that our family will understand? Do you think that they'll accept me? Coming from Hawaii, not speaking Chinese, and immediately her response, as well as the response of the men seated in this picture, they said, of course we accept you. Why wouldn't we accept you? You're our family. Family is far more important than anything else. It rises above all of these other insignificant, other little details. What makes this story so special is that this family is my father's mother's family, and I affectionately call her Popo. I spent every day with my Popo for the first 25 years of my life. If I wasn't with her, I was with my Hawaiian grandparents. But often I was with my Popo. And she was one of the most sweetest and kindest women that one could ever meet. Never had an unkind word to say to anyone. So it's no surprise that going to China and tracking my ancestry, I was able to come upon this family. It is through my Chinese family that I obtained that name Guaigong, which means precious brilliance. Precious brilliance or precious light, everyone. And to think for 42 years I denied myself the privilege and the honor. I had to disguise it in what I thought was going to be okay, what I thought was going to be accepted here in Hawaii. So hence, Hinaleimoana came into being. And for those of you who may know in Hawaiian lore and history, Hina is the goddess of the moon. She presides over the moon, and it is that light that is cast upon us in some of the darkest of times. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask each and every one of you to take away from the story that I have shared with you, regardless of whether you're multi-ethnic, multicultural, or you're of one ethnicity, regardless of your age, regardless of your sex, regardless of any of all of these things, and these variables do change. Regardless of all that, our ancestry never changes. So if you have the opportunity to either discover or perhaps rediscover that precious brilliance within you, I ask that you do so. I challenge you to go out and find out, to search the path that we have all come down so that we know the road that we will travel. And never forget that it is that inheritance from our kupuna. It's not only a Hawaiian belief, but it is a Chinese belief. And it took me 42 years to find a complete circle, come all the way around. The theme of our sharing is a brilliant life. So the second challenge I have for you is that once you are able to potentially discover or rediscover that light that lies within each and every one of you, it doesn't matter that your name isn't Guaikong. What matters is that you realize that you and I have the potential. We have the capacity for greatness. And with that said, you and I have the capacity to invoke and to light that spark of brilliance within the next person, be it our friend or our family. Mahalo.